Hello guys, we are back with another Remembrancer video. We are on our fourth Primarch, Jaghatai Khan. He is from the 5th Legion. I think his legion is called White Scars, and I really can get into it. But before we go, I want to address something that I have encountered. So encountered this interesting comment like, I think fantasy is not for you, then if you consider 4th faction boring. So this is a comment on my Warhammer fantasy where I quickly glanced over the other factions in fantasy, and clearly, as this person maybe thought, that I found half of the faction boring and uninteresting, which I think is a bit true, but just because, I didn't fully enjoy some faction doesn't mean, you know, fantasy is not for me. It's just I think as a person I get to choose what I like and what I dislike. And I guess as my point is, so let's just say if I would agree with this statement, yeah? My favorite artist is this man. I listened to this man since 2014, And let's just say, let's go to his albums. I clearly see he releases a lot of music. This album literally dropped 2-3 days ago. By that logic, out of 6 albums you see here, I dislike 3 of them. I won't say which ones. I dislike 3 of them. So should I stop listening to him because he's boring? Clearly, no. It's not how it works. You genuinely need to find something that you like. You don't need to enjoy everything. And that is my stance of things. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, I hope I made my point. Let's go.
Warriors of Chogoris, brothers of the great tribe, the star hunt calls you. Do you not hear it? The battle's red edge is your home. The respect of your kinsman your hearth. Plunge into the enemy's breast like a blade. Cut out his heart, and you will know fulfillment. The Emperor has given us strength. In return, we give him victory.
Okay.
Of all the sons of the Emperor, a select few have always been viewed with disdain by their brothers. For the Primarchs are the greatest living beings of the Imperium, with exception to the Emperor himself, and their influence across the galaxy molds the Imperium's children to follow. While some are hewn into statues proclaiming their virtues on Imperial worlds, and the fallen Primarchs are worshipped by fell demons, there is one who has always been regarded with suspicion and never truly understood by either loyalist or traitor.
And that Primarch name is Corvux Corax.
Seen by most as a barbarian, this Primarch would in his solitude prove to be well cultured and intelligent, but keep his intentions and traits closely guarded to prevent them from being exploited. Jaghatai Khan, Primarch of the 5th Legion and Great Khan of Chogoris. During the scattering of the Primarchs, Jaghatai would land on the planet of Chogoris, a fertile world filled with
You know what? I always called Chogoris. I always thought it's Chigoris, but it's Cho.
vast plains of grass, snow-topped mountains, and vast oceans. The planet was ruled by the Palatine, a feudal aristocrat whom led his vast armies to dominate the planet. However, there was a land to the west of the Palatine that he would leave wild, the Empty Quarter, a barren grassland with little in resources or value.
Bruh, this is the place where I would want to have, my bike and just ride all day long.
Inhabited by nomadic tribes whom fought amongst themselves for their ancestral lands. This is where Jaghatai would be found by a man by the name of Ong Khan, chieftain of the small tribe of the Talaskas. Seeing the child as a gift from the gods, Ong would see the fire in Jaghatai's eyes, the mark of a great warrior. Ong was hated by the other tribes of the Empty Quarter for his visions of a united tribe of the downtrodden people of the Empty Quarter. One day, the tribes would kill Jaghatai's adoptive father for his ideals.
Wait, I didn't hear. What was the Jaghatai? I think I missed. He told his name, but I didn't hear it.
Even as a boy, Jaghatai was without match as a warrior amongst the men of the Talaska tribe, and he would gather
Bro, I think probably when he was like 7, he's already taller than all the guys on the fucking planet.
his fellow tribesmen to seek vengeance against his father's killers. The Kurayed tribe would be slaughtered, not only the men, but the women and children as well.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jaghatai would cleave the head from the tribe's chieftain and mount it to his sleeping tent. The slaughter would forge Jaghatai into a fiercely ruthless yet loyal warrior. With his father's death avenged, Jaghatai would swear to unite the people of the Empty Quarter as one tribe and bring an end to its constant infighting. Fighting hundreds of battles for years, Jaghatai would assimilate the warring tribes into the fold, making military service mandatory for all who joined, while splitting the tribe's people amongst themselves to weed out blood feuds and differences within its people.
But I wonder, is it... just think about it for a second. I'm sorry. Is it really very impressive that Jaghatai Khan basically combined tribes when, let's just say, people like Prospero or Fulgrim fucking remade basically the whole world they were on? I think, like, and maybe he still didn't get into it, but as I see now, the world was divided into nomads lands and the some other guys, basically like Imperium, and he basically managed to combine the tribes. That doesn't seem like a big achievement.
10 years later, the Khan would travel to his winter settlement and be set upon by the Palatine's hunting band.
Yeah, so half of the world is basically Palatines.
Led by its emperor's son. Jaghatai would kill the men, leaving one mutilated rider to bring the Palatine emperor the severed head of his son. Enraged, the Palatine would gather a gigantic army to destroy the tribes of the Empty Quarter, but ultimately underestimate Jaghatai.
Okay, now this is crazy. So, if they had all this technology, and as in the imagery Remembrancer shows us that they had like this, I think it's impressive.
His heavily armored soldiers bested
I
by the
knew.
Khan's more mobile warriors and archers. The Palatine would retreat, leading to the tribe elders to confer the title of the first Khagan, or Khan of Khans, to Jaghatai. As Jaghatai would continue his conquest, he would recruit soon-to-be legendary members of his future legion, including Kinja, Hasik, and Targatai Yesuge. Besieging the cities of the Palatine, the Khagan would give its inhabitants two choices: surrender or die. Jaghatai would eventually reach the palace of the Palatine. He would demand its emperor's head on a pike from the city, which its inhabitants would willingly oblige. Jaghatai would adorn it on his tent, exactly as he had done to his father's killer 2 decades before. Within 2 years,
Also this, but again, 2 decades, that's what, 20 years? So 20 years ago, he well, in his time, I don't know, what year it is. So, around, brother, I'm so, like, freaking out in my head, I'm so lost, sorry. So he managed to avenge his father, unite all the nomads, and only 20 years later he managed to beat the other...
Jaghatai had conquered Chogoris' largest empire in its history and ended all wars upon the planet's surface. 6 months later...
Okay, I take it all back. I think that's actually pretty fucking cool.
The Emperor would arrive on Chogoris, along with the 16th Legion of Astartes, the Lunar Wolves, and their Primarch, Horus Lupercal. Jaghatai would instantly perceive the Emperor's might, and conclude that his dream of a united species amongst the stars would be possible, even if the Emperor would be at its helm, and not himself. Jaghatai would resign his position of master, and become a servant of the Emperor's will, dropping to one knee and swearing fealty to the Emperor and his Imperium. Considering that rejection of the Emperor's will would lead to his people's annihilation, and seeing the Lunar Wolves present, reasoned that these indomitable warriors would soon mirror his own should he swear loyalty to the Imperium. Jaghatai would
I think he kind of saw those warriors and was like, I want a piece of the
also
pie.
hand over the shackles of
And
mundanity that
I do not judge him. I mean,
statesmanship required, and would revel in his duty to the Imperium of waging war and hunting the enemies of humanity. Soon he would be given command of his legion, then known as the Star Hunters. Jaghatai would overhaul his Terran-born son's tactics, implementing his Chogoran-learned strategies of speed and maneuverability to best his foes. As the Imperium was desperate for the fighting prowess of all Primarchs, Jaghatai would be sent straight into the maw of conflict, with the war against the Nephilim resulting in Jaghatai renaming his sons of the 5th Legion. The Legion would conduct a ritual at the empty quarter of Chogoris, known as the Blooding. 50,000 sons of the Khan would take up blades and cut a mark on the flesh of their faces, inflicting scars that would also herald their individual renaming as Sons of the White Scars.
okay, I see this. But this is just weird. Imagine you're like walking around, you see 50 fucking thousand space marines and they're all cutting a scar on their face.
With further battles
That's weird,
waged
yeah.
during the Ulanor
That's very cultish.
crusade against the Orc hordes, Jaghatai would earn a reputation within the Imperium as a truly deadly warrior. Rogel Dawn and Rabute Gilliman would object to the Khan's swift induction into the theatre of war, believing that
Oh, they didn't want him to go to war so fast because they didn't like believe in his skills, I guess.
Primarch to lack true understanding of the Imperium's values and culture,
Ah, yeah. Okay.
leaving him ill-prepared to integrate into the wider Imperium. Though the Khan did have strong bonds with some of his brothers, notably Horus Lupercal and Magnus the Red of the Thousand Sons. As the first Primarch to meet the Khan, Horus would revel in their shared exploits and respect for one another as warriors.
Can I also say, I think, basically from what I see, everyone was friends with Magnus, bro.
Whilst Magnus was an outsider to his brothers just like the Khan, and shared a kinship for the pursuit of knowledge. It was therefore tragic that his most erstwhile brothers would one day be his enemies.
Yeah, that's...
With the beginning stages of the Horus heresy, Horus would turn to Jaghatai for his allegiance. However, his loyalty to the Emperor was unbreakable, and the Khan would stay his hand. Jaghatai would not dive into the conflict, instead waiting patiently for information to be relayed to him. Even when being petitioned for aid by Leman Russ of the Space Wolves to combat the traitor forces of the Alpha Legion,
Yeah, I heard somewhere that fucking Space Wolves were asking for help, and the 5th Legion, Jaghatai Khan, did not help him.
the Khan
Which
would
is
receive
kinda
conflicting
sad.
reports from several legions, but wisely not involve himself until he knew the truth of the events that had unfolded. Seeking answers, the Khan would receive urgent orders from Rogel Dawn himself, requesting for the White Scars to immediately travel to Holy Terra to aid in its defense. The Alpha Legion would blockade his passage, presenting themselves neither as friend or foe. The Khan would assess their ruse, realizing their actions sought to sow doubt in his mind, keeping the White Scars immobile and neutered in the wider war that was waging. The Khan's fleet would confront the Alpha Legion blockade, which would result in the Alpha Legion firing on their vessels. The 20th Legion, renowned for their secrecy, would be bested by the Khan's cunning, and the White Scars would push past the blockade and travel into warp space, their destination unknown. The 5th Legion would find themselves at Prospero, its surface scorched to the consistency of burnt charcoal. On the surface, the Khan would speak with an apparition of his beloved brother, Magnus the Red.
Okay.
He explained that he had tried to warn the Emperor of Horus's betrayal, but was punished for his intervention. When pressed for his allegiance, Magnus would reveal his opposition to the Emperor, and the Khan would stand with the Imperium. Feeling a presence that had haunted him since Ulanor, the Khan would witness a spear of light pierce the sky of Prospero, summoning the Primarch of the Death Guard, Mortarion. The Primarch of the 14th Legion would implore the Khan to join Horus's traitor legions. Noticing the physical changes to his brother, the Khan would warn Mortarion of further changes that might befall his legion should he continue to pursue his corrupted path. Mortarion would brush aside his warnings, and with the Khan's refusal to join the traitors, the two Primarchs would duel. Their battle
But this is kind of crazy how still I think Khan like saw the changes in Mortarion, but still was like, brother, you should stop immediately. And he tried. I think at that point, if I was in Jaghatai Khan's shoes, I would have just struck him.
Would end in stalemate, with the cowardly Mortarion retreating before the battle could be finished.
But Mortarion at this point wasn't still like fully transformed into the chaos thingy, yeah? He was just like still like human.
With his
Mostly,
interactions
hopefully.
between Magnus and Mortarion concluded, Jaghatai had finally deduced the extent of the traitorous intent of Horus Lupercal's rebellion. Resolving to aid his brother Primarch Rogel Dawn in the defense of Terra, the Khan would utilize the Dark Glass, a relic from the Dark Age of technology recently discovered by rogue traders. White Scar veteran Jaghatai Yusuge would sacrifice his life to power the relic and allow the Khan to travel to Terra. Meeting with Rogel Dawn, Sanguinius, and Malcador the Sigillite,
Sanguinius, so sad.
assembled protectors of Terra would devise their strategy to combat the incoming traitor forces. With the full force of chaos assaulting the Imperial Palace, Jaghatai Khan would aid the beleaguered defenders of the throne by recovering the vital Lionsgate spaceport from traitor forces, using his strategies of lightning-fast raid tactics, reclaiming the spaceport in a tremendous single strike. Jaghatai would also lead his 300-strong jetbike battalion to assault the Colossi Gate with support from Blood Angel Captain Ralderon and Adeptus Custodes commander Constantin Valdor. This retaliation would be halted by the arrival of the Death Guard, with the now fully chaos-corrupted Primarch Mortarion dueling Jaghatai once again.
Oh, but now he's like fully corrupted.
Their rematch would prove that Jaghatai was no match in strength for the now empowered Primarch of the 14th Legion.
But he looked so cool.
However, the Khan understood the psychology of his brother and baited him with barbed words and insults that played to his neuroticism. Overextending Mortarion, he would reveal a weakness for the Khan to exploit. As Jaghatai was impaled by Mortarion's scythe, the Khan would behead his former brother, casting his soul into the warp. After recovering from his wounds, and with the Horus heresy quashed under the heel of his Imperium, Jaghatai Khan would return to Chogoris. Finding that the Dark Eldar had made several raids on his homeworld, the Khan would hunt down the Drukhari, even pursuing his charge into the Webway to bring an end to their foul deeds. To which he has since not returned, though it is said amongst the veterans of the White Scars that the Great Khan will one day return to his legion, in the time of their greatest.
I wonder, did he did the Dark Elder manage to capture him, or did he venture in one of those Elder, how's that portal thingy called, Webway? Maybe he's stuck somewhere in the Webway?
Need, and bring righteous fury to the enemies of his Imperium.
Or for all we can know, maybe he's even somewhere there in there. Which kind of would be sad. It would be cool if he would come back.
It is not enough to take from an enemy their life. Rather, take from them also their places of safety, their allies, their homes, and their loved ones. Crush all those in their care. Lay their chattels to waste, and then drive them alone and naked into the darkness. Take everything they have and burn it for the mere pleasure of seeing the ash crackle between your fingers, and call it nothing more than a beginning.
That's too deep for me. I'm sorry. With my English skills, I understood none of it. I'll probably have to summarize it in ChatGPT. Yeah, I know. Even sometimes you guys type those long comments. I genuinely have to summarize it in ChatGPT to make it simpler for me.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. Bare your teeth, sons of Fenris, for our next Vox transmission, wherein we will detail the deeds of the great wolf, Leman Russ.
Russ. I like that Leman Russ is named after the tank, Imperial Guard. And yeah, crazy how, compared to other videos, this one is very short, but a lot of information. I actually think, so we have only now watched and listened about 2 Chaos Primarchs and 2 Loyal Primarchs. I think I personally like Jaghatai Khan more than Lyon L. Johnson. Okay, maybe I really underestimated the Khan, but I just think his achievements are lesser compared to Fulgrim and Perturabo. But that's the whole point. As he said, he's the guy who keeps his abilities at bay and hidden. And that's why Mortarion underestimated him and lost his head. Again, thank you for remembering and for uploading this video. Please leave a like, leave a dislike if you didn't like my reaction. Please sub, that would really mean a lot. And see you next one. Ciao, ciao.